anybody that's ever wanted to be an astronaut at all, just even a little bit, everybody wants to go to the moon. I was pushing for a pilot's license. I was chasing ill hobbies, and I ended up flying kites in the park. The things that we do when we're children to imitate our dreams, we land a spaceship in a sandbox because the moon is one big sandbox. We will all be astronauts. If nothing else than to keep that suit in our closet and have a girl come over. The astronaut suit in that long plastic dry cleaner bag hanging from the bathroom door. Tell her you just got it back from the laundromat. There's this place down on 3rd that can get out any stain, and now you can let her wonder. So I started pushing for a pilot's license. I figured crawl before you walk, kites to model planes to video simulators, and such before I attained that all-amazing suit. I wondered if you needed someone else to zip you up, if astronauts felt like girls when they did that over-the-shoulder motion, followed by the, could you? And the girls always want to try it on, like when it's on, gravity will disappear and then we can fuck on the ceiling. What is it with people wanting to fuck on the ceiling? Usually they just end up jumping on the couch and knocking over my lamp. And astronauts go through amazing amounts of lamps. You really can't hurt yourself in those things though. And they only come in one size, as if we were dressed for the occasion of a meet and greet with a race of Stay Puft Marshmallow Men on the moon. And after she gets the suit on, and I've zipped her up, she asks how long she can breathe in it. She can't hear me, so I write it down on a cocktail napkin and press it against her windshield of a face. And she moves in slow motion because she wants to be epic. Because the suit kind of weighs her down 30 pounds. Yes. I tell her, she's still pretty, and a 30-pound heavier than she was Michelin Tire Man sort of way. And when we're making love, I don't tell her once that I'm going to take her to the moon. Maybe, I think, I probably should. I'd like to hand over to a short story that I wrote some years ago. It's in that book right there, that's for sale right there. Jason Whitaker.
I want to tell you a little story about a little girl. Don't you dress it up. In fact, take off your pants, sit down, and try your very best to keep in mind that sometimes the stories just tell themselves. I was walking down the street one day in a city like a body. Everything was fluent. It just seemed to pump. The buses down the street, the Beatles that skirmished about your feet. It was a beat that everything takes when it finds its step, like women's menstrual cycles or lovers' heartbeats. When it finds its sometimes it just seems to make sense. Anyway, I was walking down this street, or an avenue. Sometimes you just don't remember the details, but there was this girl on the curb, crying. Her sobs completely cut out the beat of the city. Like when people are bad at clapping at concerts, it felt sad. She stopped the music in my head. She stopped the movement of my feet. She stopped me. I took a seat next to her. She didn't even bother looking up. She just kept sobbing out of place, out of time, out of beat. She didn't bother. For the next 10 minutes, the city life, like the clock's rhythm, was just broken. I was speechless. I only spoke in rhymes, so when she broke my heart, she broke my timing. So I stuttered, as if I'd stuttered before. The words find your mouth, mind themselves like they were meant for your tongue. Like everything you say is worth the air it prattles on. But I stuttered for the first time in my life, like an amnesic patient learning to trust all over again. I found some words. I think I got some. What keeps you up? If it's gone, I'll go get it. You seem down. I wasn't a wordsmith. She wasn't a kite. I'd walked around a few books with my eyes, but the downtrodden intrigued me. She stuttered like a bride down a runway, like a model on her Mayday. I just can't get anything right today. I misheard her. I missed her. I asked her name in a forgiving tone. I asked her if there were more or less of her than I should have known. She never answered a damn thing like that with a line. Her name was Story. And like a joke, I would ask about her ending, if she counted calendar days like pages, and every year, do your chapters end with the fall of your tears? Her parents weren't books. Her birth was really just an idea they took from the shelf when they had read each other silly one night. The day of her conception, her mother had published a novel titled 9 Months in Waiting Rooms, Tired Heels Tied to Tile Floors, Tire of You. When she read the book as soon as she could read, and she took off as soon as she realized the meaning. Sometimes the meaning is all it takes. Sometimes the meaning takes it all. But they were real class acts. She would tell me about her parents. I hate cliches, but my parents would sometimes tell me, sometimes the truth hurts. She would tell me her little brother's name was Truth. I would laugh like fiction. Stories are always best when you read them as you were writing them. She got it. We would start and stop everything together, like minds at work, like miners in a mountain, telling stories until we got the gold out. She got the gold out of me. And I found her on the curb crying, and she told me her name was Story, and I started listening. She said the best place to lie like rugs were in libraries, where you could never be penalized for not talking enough. She said she was a loss of words until she found pens and paper. The best lies, like lawyers, were contracted across tables. So we would go to work between our body language and spell out our best interests with the greatest alliteration her mother never read. She called me the vehicle that all her greatest emotions read. No road, no ride. We published practically every month. It was worth the lives we lived. She said sometimes we would get it right. It would remind me of that first day on a curb like a child with no parents. She was crying. Story with no story. I told her sometimes you have the words. Sometimes you have the story. Sometimes you have both. Sometimes, lately, just don't. I brought her home and fed her my feeble lines, faulty poems that walked tall in the clouds. They were built on cheap stilts from the diction that my mind had designed. She told me it was all wrong. I stuttered to this day. She took off her blouse and, like maps in my mind, traced bruises and freckles like paragraphs. I just wrote like an artist, like a cartographer, like I was drawing. I found it all in her smiles. She lined my life with adjectives. When I was with her, I was never at a loss. Now I made a fist until the writing would come with metaphors, like nothing else. She would walk her fingers and my eyes down the pages of her life. Every dent in her thigh, every scar that made her break down and cry. They were her stories. After kissing her goodnight, I would tug at her ear to bookmark our progress. We were a small collection of dates, a catalog of calendar days. She would tell me someday, if we were lucky, we could be an anthology. I found with every article of clothing another beautiful rhyme. Her legs were so long, I swore my stilts would never reach that high. We were published. I tell you, it was both of us, mostly because she was my muse. I was the mouth for all the words she made me think of and use. When I found her on the curb that day and she told me I just can't get anything right, I understood instantly after that first night. Because she was the story I wrote. She was the violent quiet you hear when you turn the page of every book. I'll tell you this right now, because you've asked me. You've asked me impatiently with the tone reserved after you've asked me 1,000,000 times. You asked me with a stutter. You're a pretty girl, and I figured you would know better. You asked me in a city with a heart that beats and pumps, with taxi lights, neon bar signs, and lovers that whisper in melodies as they're loving goodnight. You asked me what was wrong. As I sat on a curb in your big city, what was wrong? Like an orphan on a bad night, I thought about love and the way sometimes words just make it. Make our bodies maps, make our time passing laughs. In sudden cliffhanger chapters, I was sitting on this curb, crying. Under my breath, I said, so she left. But all you heard was, I just can't get anything right.